through this.
And just so you know, either Don or Nick sent out the meeting notice to everybody on the Barkhamsted uh, share site.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, Don said he was going to try to send it out. That's great.
Yeah, that's where I learned about it. I received it today, and I may that this there may have been a notice prior to this that I missed.
Yeah, like I said, I did a press release, but I don't know that many of the papers picked it up. So I'm glad that Barkhamsted sent it out. Oh, I think I have a couple people joining, so give us just a second. Hi, Patrick. I think that's Rob who also joined here with us. All right, so we're gonna just jump right in. Thank you all for coming. Tonight, we're gonna talk about the Northwest Connecticut Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. It's also referred to as CEDS. So if you hear me say CEDS, it is the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. It's a 5-year plan. We're updating it. It will actually be the 2024 plan to 2028. Our last plan did expire in 23, so this is the continuation of that plan. So today we're going to talk a little bit about who is the Northwest Connecticut Economic Development Collaboration, what is the CEDS all about. We're going to review the executive summary, the vision statement, and the goals in the CEDS. Not going to go into a lot of detail. I'm going to give you the overview of what we talked about and what the conclusions were. You can go on to the Northwest Hills Council of Governments website. Right on the front page, there's a link to the CEDS, and you can read the whole document. It's about 45 pages long, and then there's appendix attached to it, so it's about 90 pages. So it is pretty in-depth, but there's a lot of photos and graphs and things that make it easier to read. So today we'll just yeah.
Krista, we should also note that what they will look at is the unedited version. There's been a lot of work put into cleaning it up and editing it since that was posted.
Yes, thank you, Mark. That is true. There are some typos and some gray boxes that of where photos will go, but we just didn't have them, and we wanted to get this out to the public. And then I'll give you the information as to where you can provide feedback back to me. And I'll also just say at this point, if you listen to what we're doing and you really want to get more involved, you can also use the same contact information to reach out and let me know, and you're happy to have you on the committee or one of our working groups, as we get moving along here. Okay, so who is the Economic Development Collaboration? Some of you may be familiar with the Economic Development Corporation, which we had been up until 2023. EDA changed our designation so that the Northwest Hills Council of Governments is the official fiscal agent of the EDA funds. So the Economic Development Corporation disbanded, and we are now the Economic Development Collaboration. It's a special committee of the Northwest Hills Council of Governments. Northwest Hills Council of Governments is the collaboration of the 21 chief elected officials in the Northwest Connecticut. Those are our towns that we represent, highlighted in green over to the left. I'm not going to read this word for word, but we are a broad-based organization. We have public and private nonprofit organizations, as well as government leaders and educators on our board. And we work to develop and implement the CEDS as we move along. So the CEDS is a regional plan for economic growth and for developing resilience to economic shock. So this is a plan that can be used by any of our stakeholders within the region. If you're a developer, if you're a nonprofit organization, if you're a business, local government, any other public-private partner that we work with, you can refer to the CEDS and hopefully be part of it, and see how you fit in, how your role fits in. The reason that's important is if you have the need for funding, there may be funding opportunities that go along with being part of a regional plan. In this CEDS, there are 4 required sections. One is the background that talks about who we are as a region and gives some very specific data about the region. We have a SWOT analysis that we've identified our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. We did have a survey that went out. We had nearly 130 or 140 responses to that. And they were all kind of telling us the same thing. So I think we did really capture the information that we needed to gather from the region. Then it's a strategic direction and action plan, which is what we'll spend most of our time talking about today. And then an evaluation framework for how are we going to be successful with our strategic plan. All right, so through the development of the CEDS, we held many public meetings. I did quite a few interviews and small group meetings, and as well as that survey I spoke about. And across the board, there was a set of values that kept coming to the top. We wanted to make sure that we were innovative and creative, that we had a focus on education and high quality education, not just K through 12, but secondary, trade school, postgraduate type education, to support individuals wherever they are in their life. We want to make sure that we're diverse and inclusive. We have a lot of natural assets that make our region so special. So we wanted to make sure that we are protecting those assets and being environmentally conscious. Resilient and sustainable businesses and communities, equitable economic growth, and that we were creating a business-friendly environment. And then as we were having further conversations, a couple themes of things that we really wanted to focus on kept coming up. Housing. These are not in any particular order, but I will say housing was in just about every single conversation that we had for one reason or another, whether we're talking about elderly housing, workforce housing, affordable housing, middle housing, restoring housing. There was a conversation about housing. That's not the whole story. So we want to make sure we're also focusing on the business environment, on workforce development, tourism, and arts and culture. So through these themes, we came up with our goals. And our goals are 1, to address the housing needs in the region, 2, to encourage business growth and expansion, 3, support workforce development that aligns talent with the needs of the regional business sectors. Goal 4 is increase tourism in the region, and goal 5 is to strengthen the creative economy. I will get into a little bit more details on these, but before I do, I just want to talk a little bit about our vision statement. You'll see around the vision statement are those core values again, and that really tied right back to our vision. How do we see our region in 10 years? So throughout this conversation and developing, what do we envision this region looking like? The idea of a modern New England came up, and we kind of liked that. So we launched from there. So in 2035, the region will embody the characteristics of a modern New England. We define modern New England to be a network of small towns that share a set of values and collectively celebrate each community's rich historic assets and unique character, while also sharing resources that will foster a supportive, resilient, inclusive environment where individuals and businesses thrive. So that's our vision. And to achieve that vision, we came up with the development of our goals and the action steps that we want to take to get here in 2035. So, and I apologize, these are screenshots of the actual document. I wanted to make sure you were seeing what was there, but there are some typos in it, but that's just because it's a screenshot. So Goal 1, address the housing needs of the region. We know that housing is essential. We know that the cost of housing is skyrocketing, and we know that we have inadequate housing supply to attract the workforce that we need for our businesses, particularly teachers, police, fire, emergency workers, but also the hospitality industry, like manufacturing, healthcare, agriculture. They're all looking for people to work. So to do this, we have 4 kind of bullet points. We're gonna start developing new housing. We're gonna support adaptive reuse projects. A lot of these people know as brownfields projects, but they don't have to be contaminated. They can be just other vacant or abandoned or underutilized properties in your community. Rehabilitate older housing stock. Most of our housing stock in the region is built before 1970. Especially in, Winston and Torrington, where there's a higher density of housing, and the majority of the housing, and it is much older, making it expensive to move in and not necessarily the housing that people are looking for. And then also remove the systemic barriers that are preventing housing opportunities. Every town does have an affordable housing plan, and through that process, there were suggested changes to the specific zoning regulations of each town, and we can help them remove those barriers, but also looking at other barriers that might exist. Encourage business growth and expansion. We are very rural. We understand that. It's not that we don't want larger businesses. We will support larger businesses, but just the nature of the region, we tend to attract that small to mid-sized business. So most of our efforts are focused on that small to mid-sized business, as well as supporting home-based and small businesses and startups. We really want to develop a business-friendly culture, but also look at what are some of those physical improvements that we can make that make it easier for a business to move into a brick and mortar or to expand. So to do that, cultivate a business-friendly environment. Here we talk about, creating networking opportunities and training opportunities and resources for businesses to learn something that they might be challenged with. Want to make sure that we increase grand list growth and stabilize our tax rates. It's very important that we have stable tax rates within the region, because we are competing against 169 other towns in the state, along with our neighboring states. So making sure that we do have stable tax rates makes us more competitive. And improving our public infrastructure, making sure that we have the utilities that we need. That's electric, sewer, fiber optic, the road networks that we need so to support the business expansion and growth. And then reduce barriers to employment. We see this as access to childcare, limited public transportation, and a lot of times there's a language barrier as well. Goal number 3, support workforce development that aligns talent with the needs for the regional business sectors. So yes, we want to attract a workforce, but it's not just attracting workforce, it's home growing that workforce as well, attracting it here and making sure that it meets the needs of the businesses that we have. So the major industries in our region, when we look at the data, they're manufacturing, healthcare, agriculture, hospitality, construction, trades, public safety, and local government. So to do that, we want to promote and create workforce development programs for current and future jobs in the region. There are lots of partners out there that are doing this. We want to make sure that we're connecting with them and working with them, and providing support wherever we can to reach as many people as we can on that level. We want to promote the occupations that are prevalent throughout the region. There is still a lot of misconceptions about manufacturing and some of the jobs that are out there, that they're dark, dirty, dangerous, and things have changed so much that they're not. They're really great careers. There's also new careers coming out all the time with AI and social media and different needs of the businesses. And a lot of times people don't know about these new careers as well. And then, improve business efficiencies by exploring smart growth opportunities in AI, state of the art technology. A lot of what we're hearing is there's just so many jobs out there in the state right now. We're not going to solve the problem by just attracting more people to the region. We need to find more efficient ways to do the same job, not eliminating human jobs, but becoming more efficient so that the human jobs are more skilled, advanced jobs. Goal number 4, we want to work to increase tourism in the region. We want to bring new dollars to the region to support our businesses, and then our region, of course. We have so many natural resources that attract people to the area, and we have so many great businesses that are tourism type businesses that will continue to have people coming back. We have been working for many years on the Discover Litchfield Hills campaign. We have a Discover Litchfield Hills website that's pretty robust, and some social media that we've been working to grow on that, continue to develop that campaign and promote it. We need to foster stronger relationships with the state of Connecticut and the Western Regional Tourism District. They get millions of dollars a year in tourism efforts, and very little of that trickles to us. We want to make sure that we're getting our fair share, and that we're also doing what we can to align our efforts with their efforts so that we can have the biggest reach possible. And we want to invest in social infrastructure, which are the third places. These are places that people, they spend time at home, they spend time at work, and these will be the third places. Sometimes you'll hear them referred to as like the library or the barber shop. In this case, we're really talking about those public places, the trails, greenways, parks, playgrounds. Not only are they essential for our community and to bring our community together and give the people that live here a place to go, but they help promote tourism and support and help attract people that are coming here. I also just want to say on this goal, we're very conscious of doing this in a smart way that draws people to these assets. We also want to make sure we're protecting these assets and we're providing education for good stewardship of these assets. We don't want to overwhelm a community or a park or a playground where it's no longer providing the benefit that it is. So as much as the promotion is important, we also have talked a lot about making sure we do this in the right way, in a smart way, and provide those educational opportunities when we can. Strengthen the creative economy. The creative economies are growing. It's a growing economy in our region. It helps with tourism, but it's more than just arts. It really is a breadth of industries that have thinkers. And it's a little bit different. It's not always so brick and mortar. They have a little bit of a different need. So it was worth the call out for a goal. So advocate artists in the broader creative process by promoting and understanding culture and creativity as vital to strong communities. Build infrastructure to support the creative economies. Preserve and expand access to the arts, and then provide regulatory and technical support on all aspects of the creative economy. And in this, there's a lot of different ways we can go, but one big one that comes up a lot is people want to make sure that they have an opportunity to put a public art display or mural on the side of a building. And a lot of times people think just about the installation, and then as time goes on, there becomes issues about who can maintain it, who takes it off, how long is it there, and there's legal issues that surround that as far as artists' VERA rights. We can help provide some guidance so that people aren't hesitant to do that, and that's just one example, but there's many different ways we can impact that. So that is it for the goals. And our public comment period is still open till March 11th. I would encourage you to go to the Northwest Hills COG website. And right on the front page, review the whole sets, look at the tasks that are written in there, and then use this to email me or mail me any written comments that you have. So I kind of went through that fairly quickly, but I wanted to make sure I saved enough time for anybody on the call who might have questions or want me to go into a little bit more detail on any of that. So it looks like there's still a fairly small group. So why don't you just unmute yourself and speak up if you have any questions?
I'm trying to find, this is Joe Nardi. I'm trying to find my way back to the document that was attached in the file I'm on, Northwest Hills COG.org, and the reports document. I don't see the one of the draft that I saw earlier today when I was perusing the documents you had. Can you guide me back to that, or is that an email?
Sure. So go back to the home page,
Yep.
and this is public review of comprehensive economic development strategy.
Yes, right there. Okay, good thing it doesn't bite. Yep.
Yeah. And then right on the bottom is the NHCOG CEDS report.
Yeah, I was curious about there was one of the weaknesses identified. Where is this file? Let's see. I'm trying to download it. Can you go to that page here on this screen by chance? Or I see V3, is that the one I'm looking at? Report V3?
Yeah, so give me a second here and I can
I was talking to a client in Woodbury when I was had this file open. Woodbury is not one of the towns in Litchfield County, is that correct?
so the COG border does not necessarily follow Litchfield County.
Got it.
The COGs have a different designation. The Economic Development District is in line with the COG, not the county.
Okay, that explains that. But I found, and I'm a lifelong, for most of my, before I went off to school and started my career, I've been a resident of the Northwest Hills for a majority of my life, and I found these statistics to be pretty interesting and pretty consistent with what you see when you move between an old industrial mill town and a smaller hill town, for instance, right? It's kind of interesting. I'm trying to find the one thing did come
Can you see my screen now?
in.
You
Yeah,
see the strategy? So I have
I'm looking down to the SWOT matrix, and I do SWOT matrices all the time. And I found one of the comments interesting, and I just was wondering if I'm following it correctly.
sure.
Yeah. Well, I agree with all those. The one that just catches my eye is this access to broadband again, the limited utilities. I saw in the prior report we were very interested in the fiber optic, and I have a huge appetite in what I do for bandwidth, really high speed bandwidth. Um, did are Where are we at with the interest in the fiber optic countywide? It kind of seemed like the interest in that worked well for Frontier. I'm not a shareholder of anybody. I just like very fast pipes. Where are we at now with that? One thing that's super interesting is we're getting away from land-based technology infrastructure to, wireless. And I'm always amazed at how fast it's getting. Where are we at on the broadband? Is that a countywide issue because of the hills, or what is the thinking there? This is a countywide, a Northwest Council of Government wide issue, right? The broadband.
Right.
Yep.
And so in our last CEDS, access to fiber optics and broadband was probably one of the top priorities. And because of the pandemic and a lot of things that happened, there's been a huge infusion of money into it. And not just the pandemic, I will say a lot of the work that was done by Northwest Connect and the EDC board and the COG prior to the pandemic really set the stage, highlighting what the issues are, you know, where there were gaps in service, what we needed for service, how we can build out the system. So when some of the, you know, money through the pandemic came, that has been moving along. So we didn't want to leave it out altogether because there still is need in parts of the region for, so we have some towns that are still in dial-up, right? So we still need, there's still a need there, but it's not the same priority that it was 5 years ago. So we did build it into here, but kind of under this umbrella of we need utilities. So
Right.
broadband, sewer, and public water. Does that answer? I don't have the very specifics. I'm fairly new to the COG. I know that there's been a lot of progress, but I wasn't really hands-on in a lot of that. So I can get you any more information that you want. But in general, is that what you were looking for, or is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, it's
Do
still.
you think that's true?
I do think it's true. I think, like right here in Pleasant Valley, I have very fast speed with Spectrum. And as a technologist, you know, I know how to make the most of it. I think a thing to consider here is where we have dead zones, right? And where the private companies don't want to invest in the cabling infrastructure. Is there an angle to work there with the cellular providers for coverage? So if you were to identify where you have, you know, zones where you want coverage, but there's not land-based cable services, whether that be coming in from a coax for Spectrum or a fiber with Frontier or whoever else is out there in this coverage area. To what extent might the cellular data networks give you some fast and easy coverage into spots that were previously not accessible?
Yeah.
Joe, are you on Frontier now?
I'm on Spectrum, interestingly, and
Okay, because I'm in theory in Pleasant Valley as well. I'm up on Park Road, however, also on Charter Spectrum, and it is constantly in and out. I'm constantly losing internet connection. So
interesting.
it depends on where you are.
And have you confirmed that with other devices and check things like Wi-Fi to rule those out?
Yes,
All
yeah,
right,
multiple computers.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if can anybody hear me?
I
Yeah.
can.
yep.
Yeah, sorry, I'm at a sports facility right now. Rob Phillips, the executive director here at NHCOG. I can just tell you, just from what I know, after almost 3 years here. Oh, now my wife's trying to call me. Hopefully, you can still hear me. Um, so as far as broadband goes, there's been obviously some private investment, especially in the Barkhamsted in that area with a couple of different providers. And so, you know, there's been some activity there. The state as a whole is definitely behind some broadband efforts, but mostly that is intended or targeted towards those that are more maybe disadvantaged throughout the state. So there is a current you know, process and a drive to try to complete some of those holes throughout the state, but it really is targeted more towards those, you know, that area. But there's still obviously a lot of work to do for, you know, those areas that are just spread out that may not be technically considered disadvantaged. So, you know, that those more rural areas where you kind of have to go the last mile, fiber for the last mile, I forgot what the exact terminology is. Those are still going to be areas that we're going to have to continue to kind of look at down the road. Certainly, it's the cost to service those areas is just, you know, that which, you know, makes private investment more difficult. So that's why I think it's still a priority for us, but maybe not as much as it once was, because there has been more attention from the private side and there's more attention from the public side, at least through the more disadvantaged areas. And that when you know, as far as broadband goes, as far as cell phones, cellular, that's a whole nother animal. We're still dealing with the fact that we have a town that actually has a piece of land and the ability to construct a tower, and they just can't find a carrier that will locate on the tower. So we're still dealing with pretty basic needs, and meeting those needs. It's pretty remarkable that we're still dealing with that at this point in time. But that's the reality. So there's still holes in the network and the hills that we're still trying to fill.
Right, that makes sense. I guess just in, you know, one of the observations over many decades as a technologist, and what some of the, what, I don't mean this with disrespect, but some of the third world countries are really coming up quick, and those that didn't build a national infrastructure, like China, like Brazil, their wireless infrastructure, they're really putting a lot into their cell towers and wireless infrastructure, and you know, it might be a smarter economic angle where we have coverage. Just an interesting point, one that I've observed, like the speed of cell towers when they're not congested is incredibly fast.
Thank you. I see that we just had somebody join us. We're just, we've gone through the presentation and we're just opening it up to questions and comments that anybody else may have. So, thank you, Joe. That was great and good conversation.
Yeah, but not when you're when all you have is a hammer. There's a Chinese proverb: when all you have is a hammer, everything begins to look like a nail. So I think the issues are much bigger than this. The deindustrialization, for lack of a better term, of the old mill towns like Torrington and Winston is a real challenge.
It is. All right. Are there other, I'm just trying to stop sharing this so I can see who else is on the call here. Any other questions or comments? Unmute yourself, or you can raise your hand, put it in the comment box.
What are you looking for input from people who are invited to this, residents, for instance?
Well, EDA requires that we have a public informational period. So right now we are in our 30-day public informational period. What I would like people to do is read this and see if, you know, if it makes sense to them, if there is, you know, something else that we're missing, or maybe something that you know, see in a different viewpoint, because it's only as good as the input that we have received. And like I said, we've done quite a bit of input or outreach. We've received a lot of information. But this is kind of the last chance for somebody to review it. And as you know, as a business owner or as a stakeholder in the region, to say, hey, we really think this is great, or we think that we, you know, there's something else that can be added. I don't know, Mark, if that's
Yeah.
anything else you think we should add?
Well, yeah, and related to that, we need to keep in mind that EDA, Federal Economic Development Administration, to whom this will be submitted, because they're the ones that will continue to improve our economic development district or approve our economic development district, have basically said an adequate CEDS is somewhere around 30 or 35 pages. So, you know, we could go back to the old days when these things ran 250 pages, but EDA didn't want to see that anymore. And there are things like, as Joe pointed out, the deindustrialization of many of our old industrial cities. That was identified as a challenge and a trend 10 years ago in the original CEDS. It hasn't gone away, so it's there. It's been documented. It just isn't documented over and over again.
Right.
And I think the other thing to kind of keep in mind, so this is a plan. It's a very high level plan for us to tell EDA, this is generally what we want to do. Here's how we want to do it. Here's who we want to be. But it does not get into, you know, the fine details. That will be kind of all worked through with the EDC as part of the implementation of this plan. So, the, like you're talking about with the broadband and, maybe a cellular, an opportunity, or what are the other options? We can get down into those details when we go to implement this plan. So again, if you're reviewing this and there's something that's super, important to you and you want to get more involved with the implementation, you can also reach out and let me know that as well.
And I think if you get toward the end of the plan into the implementation section, one of the first things you'll see is that it says annually that the EDC will do a detailed action plan that provides a lot more detail on what's going to happen and how.
You have a nice cat.
Thank you.
Where's
He
the-
likes technology. Anytime I turn on my one of my printers, he's got to see what's going on.
I think he loves you, Mark. Or
He
she-
does. He's keeping me warm.
Did we come up, was one of the things identified, improving access to healthcare? Is that one you came upon when you surveyed,
So we talk about healthcare because this is an economic development strategy. We don't necessarily talk about improving
Got you.
uh,
Public service.
individuals' access, but we do talk about supporting the healthcare industry in workforce development with public transportation. And also there is a regional sector partnership. There's 3 in the region. One is for manufacturing, one is for healthcare, and then there's a new one for construction and trades. And what we do say in the support business environment is to work closely with the regional sector partnerships to help them reach the goals and initiatives they've put forward. So we do touch on it, but we don't go into depth so much because it's in that, but we do touch on it in a couple different areas.
Okay,
Because this is an economic development strategy, not a community development strategy.
Right.
public services, right, I get it. Well, so what are the hot spots then? I mean, you've identified a whole lot of them, but if you were to say these 3 things are our real problem areas, where are they? Is it housing and jobs, or like what are the real problems here?
Well, so the biggest problem is we need to attract and retain our workforce. Our businesses are having a hard time finding workers. And that is directly connected to our housing. The affordability and availability, 2 separate, but a lot of times together. If we don't have the housing that will support young professionals, younger generations, we don't have the housing that will allow seniors to downsize, to open up the homes for families, we can't attract a workforce. So that's kind of the overarching, one of the biggest problems that we've seen. But there's also, some training in the workforce development that we've talked about. There's a couple different ways we can address the housing needs. And I think we also need to, this is kind of why we came up with the 5 goals that we have. They kind of all feed off of each other. While we are developing our housing and developing our workforce, we need to make sure that the businesses that we do have stay strong. So having that strong business-friendly environment that supports them, attracting visitors to here so that there are continually feet on the street and there's being new money infused into the region supporting our businesses so that as they can survive as we continue to attract and grow the region that we need to. So they all kind of, we have those 5 goals. They all kind of work together. They all kind of feed off of each other. And that's what we've been hearing.
So when you look at other regions who have done these CEDS type of program, what have we learned and who are we similar to in Connecticut? Probably the northeast corner? Like, do we
There are,
line up with other groups?
having been involved in doing their original SEDS, there are a lot of similarities in terms of the rural nature, the scattered population. Without having seen their current data, I'm going to guess they got the same problem we do with either stagnant or declining and simultaneously aging population, which equals a declining workforce availability. So I think, and old mill buildings, the deindustrialization of Putnam and Killingly and all those places over there. A lot of similarities. You're right, Joe.
You guys have your work cut out for you. I thought
We
Bob-
do. But this is the fun stuff. I love this stuff. And we have so many great partners and organizations in the region that I think that this is a great plan. I think it's an attainable plan. I think, we have a phenomenal workforce investment board, the Northwest Chamber of Commerce, among a group of other organizations that we have John Fiorello here from the college, and we have, the Northwest Arts Council that is very active. I think we can do this. I think this is a good plan, and I think that with all of our stakeholders working at it, we can see some growth in the region.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you.
If there's any other comments, anybody help unmute, raise your hand. I will put this recording on the website, or Rob will put this recording on the website tomorrow, so anybody else can review it. And public comment period is open until March 11th, so please feel free to send me anything that you have.
Thank you, Resta.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Good job,
Thank you,
Rista.
Rista.
Thanks. Bye-bye.